The rain had been falling for days, relentless against the tin roofs of Camp Mystic. The girls carried on, singing, telling stories, planning for tomorrow, unaware of the danger building upstream. The Guadalupe River, their summer playground, was about to turn deadly. Hidden by darkness and cypress trees, the water rose fast. Then, without warning, a violent surge, a wall of water thick with mud, crashed through the camp. The peaceful river became a roaring, churning torrent, tearing cabins from their foundations and swallowing the grounds. Counselors jolted awake, water already rushing across their floors. Panic set in. They had to get the campers to safety, but the water was everywhere, rising by the minute. Flashlights cut through the rain as counselors shouted names, racing against the flood. The ground vanished beneath them, the flood erasing everything in its path. In the early hours of June 17th, Camp Mystic became a disaster zone. The floodwaters shattered not just property, but a sense of security. For hundreds of girls, it was a night of terror they would never forget. For parents, miles away and unaware, the nightmare was just beginning. The story of Camp Mystic is not just about a flood. It's about tradition, community, and a series of failures that put children in harm's way. The serene landscape was transformed in minutes. Every second mattered as counselors fought to save lives. The river's fury exposed vulnerabilities no one wanted to face. The camp's sanctuary was lost to chaos. The flood was a disaster no one saw coming, and it would change everything. To understand the impact, you have to know what Camp Mystic means. For nearly a century, it's been a Texas institution, one of the oldest all-girls camps in the state. Generations of women have spent their summers here, forging bonds and traditions passed down through families. Mystic is more than a place. It's a spirit, a rite of passage, a connection to Texas heritage. The camp's rituals and ceremonies create a powerful sense of belonging. But the very beauty of Mystic, its riverfront setting, also makes it vulnerable. The camp sits on the banks of the South Fork of the Guadalupe, in the heart of Flash Flood Alley. The hill country's rocky terrain can turn a gentle stream into a raging torrent in minutes. The founders chose this spot for its beauty, long before modern flood mapping. The river is central to the Mystic experience, but that proximity comes with risk. Floods have happened before, but never like this. The camp had plans and procedures, but they relied on the assumption of warning. In June 2024, that assumption failed. The camp's idyllic location became its greatest liability. A Texas tradition was suddenly at the mercy of the water. The flood didn't just damage a place, it struck at the heart of a cherished legacy. The emotional connection made the loss even more profound. Mystic's story is now forever changed. The flood wasn't just bad luck, it was a perfect storm. A stalled weather system dumped over 15 inches of rain upstream in just hours. The ground, already saturated, couldn't absorb more. Every drop rushed into the river. Meteorologists call it a training event. Storm after storm all in one place. The river transformed in the dark, creating a flood wave, a wall of water moving at terrifying speed. Upstream gauges recorded a catastrophic rise, but no one downstream knew the scale. No sirens, no emergency alerts, just silence. The camp's protocols relied on visual cues, but this flood moved in feet per minute, not inches per hour. By the time anyone saw the water, it was too late. The safety plan was useless against a flood wave. The first warning was the sound of the river tearing through cabins. The systems meant to protect the camp failed completely. The river turned rogue, and disaster struck in the dead of night. The investigation revealed a cascade of failures. Real-time river data showed the danger, but no targeted warning reached Camp Mystic. County-wide alerts were too broad. There was no "get out now" message for the camp. Kerr County lacked a siren system along the river, leaving a critical gap. FEMA flood maps were outdated, underestimating the risk. The camp wasn't flagged for high enough danger to trigger stricter safety measures. No one was clearly responsible for warning the camp directly. The communication breakdown left the camp blind to the disaster racing toward them. Inside the camp, counselors became heroes. They waded through rising water, waking campers and forming human chains to guide them to safety. Their goal: reach the highest ground, the main lodge above the floodplain. In the chaos, the girls showed resilience, following instructions and helping each other. They left everything behind, focused only on survival. Huddled in the dining hall, they sang songs to drown out the roar of the river. For hours, they waited in the dark, cold and wet, unaware of the devastation outside. Parents, meanwhile, endured agonizing silence, desperate for news. When communication returned, relief was mixed with shock at the destruction. The counselors' bravery was celebrated, but anger soon followed. How could this happen? Why weren't their children better protected? The demand for answers grew louder. The ordeal left scars, and a community demanding accountability. In the aftermath, the focus shifted to accountability. The Camp Mystic community demanded to know why warning systems failed. Officials admitted the limits of their alerts and outdated flood maps. The flood became a case study in rural emergency management failures. Now there are calls for stricter zoning, modern safety measures, and direct emergency protocols for camps. The debate: should camps even be in high-risk flood zones? The legacy of Mystic is strong, but safety must come first. The time for action is now, before the river rises again.